Welcome, NBA fans, to the NBA Outlet Playoff Preview presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me again today, Dennis Dow, and my co-host, as always, Kory Waldron. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up?
We're the three best friends that anyone can have. Okay.
All right. Kory is definitely excited for the playoffs, as you guys can tell. And today we're talking Warriors and Spurs. This is always a great matchup. Obviously, two of the best players on both teams are out. Two of the best players in all the NBA, and Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard are out in the series. And it's not going to be the same. You know, Warriors won this season series 3-1. Not really much to take away from that, obviously, too, because the Warriors have kind of coasted this season. Is there anything from the regular season that we can kind of put into the series, or it's going to be a whole different ball game with playoff Warriors?
I mean, I guess the only thing you can put in is that Pop is going to have some sort of strategy drawn up, and so is Kerr. I mean, you know, I don't think there's much you can take away. It's a completely different animal.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. I think in the game the Spurs won, you know, there was no Klay Thompson, no Durant, you know, and that's the thing is I think that what I'm more interested in with this series is, are we finally going to see the Warriors engaged, locked in, ready to go, or is it going to be more like, oh, well, it's the Spurs without Kawhi kind of coasting? Because that's the thing is I think if Golden State doesn't, you know, get into that mindset and start going at the playoffs with, you know, with the intensity, the energy they need, you know, that could catch up to them. Maybe not in the first round, but, you know, when you look at the second round, it's going to be either Portland or New Orleans, which, you know, both of those teams have played pretty well to end the season, you know, when you compare them to the Spurs.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because obviously we've all known that the Warriors have been coasting late in the season. I think something came out with Draymond needing more motivation or something for the playoffs or along those lines. So it'd be nice for Warriors fans to see the Golden State come out with that energy, that intensity, and really blow this thing up. Where can the Warriors attack the Spurs?
I mean, just play your basketball, honestly. I mean, you have the star power. Regardless of whether or not Curry is there, and obviously Kawhi Leonard's not there for the Spurs, you still have Durant, who is, you know, arguably the best, if not the top 3 NBA superstar in this league. Draymond Green is always in the conversation for a defensive player of the year. He's obviously a great defensive player. And Klay Thompson is known to be the lockdown shooter. And, I mean, that Quinn Cook kid, I don't know about you guys, but he's completely turned my head like all the way around 3 times over.
Impressive.
He's been
good.
He's been really good for them without Curry. So obviously they're missing a backup point guard. I mean, Sean Livingston is still solid and everything else, but I think for the Warriors, you just have to play basketball. You just have to look locked in. I mean, obviously a couple weeks, not even a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I watched the Pacers beat the Warriors by 20, and the Warriors just looked dead. They didn't look interested in the game at all. They had no energy really, and you know that's just something I haven't seen from the Warriors in 2 years. Obviously, Curry being out changes things, but for me, it's all about energy. If Durant comes to play with, you know, Draymond and Klay, if those guys come to play, this series should never go more than 5 games at best.
Yeah, I would say the place they could attack the Spurs is just by forcing the Spurs to beat them. And what I mean by that is, you know, like Golden State, they've, you know, the thing on them for their whole run has been, you know, if they play their game, they're unbeatable. You know, if they're not turning the ball over, if they're doing the things that they need to do, you know, they're hitting their shots, you know, you just can't beat them. And I think that's, to me, what they need to do is just to force the Spurs to beat them. The Spurs are not, you know, they're not a great offensive team. They had a great defensive season. So just don't let the Spurs beat them by their mistakes. You know, force the Spurs to score, and just force the Spurs to play them without making so many mistakes. I mean, if they can cut down the turnovers and really not let San Antonio get easy points, to me, that's how you attack them. Can the Spurs score enough to keep up with the Warriors? And I think the answer to that, like Kory said, I really can't see this series going more than 5 games.
Yeah, you guys nailed it on the head. The Warriors just have to play their game, pick up the pace, score a lot of points. The Spurs can't keep up, especially offensively. They've really struggled this season from the 3-point line, 26 in the league in 3-point percentage. So really just clog the paint, force the ball out of Aldridge's hands, make somebody else beat you. And I think the Spurs just kind of lack the weapons right now. As good as Coach Popovich is, there's only so much he can do with the talent that they have. Moving on to the Spurs side, though, where can the Spurs attack the Warriors?
I mean, the best way for the Spurs to attack the Warriors is, it's got to be a collective effort on defense somehow. I mean, you have to try and limit. You have to really get underneath Kevin Durant. You have to really get into Kevin Durant, and you have to hope that it disrupts the offense, I guess. I mean, the one issue with the Warriors is right now without Curry is their floor spacing is going to be a little bit less chaotic than usual. I mean, obviously, you still got Clay and everybody else on that team shoots threes for the most part, but you need to really kind of stall their ball movement. You want to get the Warriors playing ISO ball. You want to have Durant, carry up the ball on, from the inbounds and play at his pace and try and do an isolation. You just want to take them out of their game. You want the Warriors to play kind of selfish basketball. And I'm not sure what the best way to do that is. I'm sure it's to play really tenacious defense, try and get them to make, tough shots over you, which they're going to probably do anyways. But it's got to be trying to disrupt the offense for the Warriors.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think San Antonio's strength in this series is their defense. I mean, they've got some really good defenders. Kyle Anderson, Aldridge has been good. Danny Green, DeJounte Murray's a good defender. So I think that's their strength. Is I think they're going to force the Warriors to play well. And as much as Golden State might want to coast in this series, and I just don't think the Spurs are going to let them do it. I think I could see it being, a 4 or 5 game series, but I could see every game being close.
Yeah,
so I think San Antonio defensively, I think they'll be able to really, just force the Warriors to do things they don't want to do. And I think that's where their plan should be. Also, just in terms of how you attack the Warriors, I would say a lot of Aldridge. I think Aldridge has had a season of kind of being fed the ball, and I don't think he's going to – I think last season's dud that he had against the Warriors was just a – doesn't even matter now. I think he's going to have a really good series.
Yeah, I think he'll be huge in the series. I think, both of what you said, you really want to slow down the game, grind it out, turn the pace down, the opposite of what the Warriors want to do. And you want to force some turnovers. Like you guys mentioned earlier on, the Warriors do turn the ball over a lot. They do get careless at times. Also play really physical, kind of get into their emotions. We've seen Draymond flip out. We've seen KD flip out. Get these guys in foul trouble. Get them some techs. They could get ejected from games in this series. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. So I think from the Spurs side, they just got to really just make this a tough, rough game.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Key matchups, what are going to be the big-time matchups in the series?
I mean, we kind of already hinted at it. It's going to be Aldridge versus Draymond. For the Spurs to have any chance, Aldridge is going to have to, average right around, his season average of 23.
I think he needs to average 30, to be honest. If they want to have even any chance, I think 30 is going to be a number that Aldridge would have to look at.
True. All right. You're right. I stand corrected. He's got to be, though, borderline MVP, level for this series to be anything. And I'm not sure how it goes. Obviously, like we mentioned just now, Dennis did last year, Draymond really got into Aldridge. And he really disrupted him, and he really made Aldridge look like possibly, not even a star in this league anymore. I think almost everyone, at least I was, thinking Aldridge was done after that series. So I think that's going to be the most important matchup, especially for the Spurs' success point of view. If they want to be successful, Aldridge has to dominate that matchup in particular.
Yeah, I would go probably DeJounte Murray, Danny Green, Kyle Anderson against, Durant, Quinn Cook, and Klay Thompson. I would just say that if, the Spurs defenders, if they can make life difficult for those three and force more out of Draymond, I think that plays into their hands. I think that, the Spurs, those guys are really gifted defenders, and I think they can really make things difficult. So, and that's, I think what it comes down to is just, can you, like you said, can you play good enough defense to frustrate the Warriors? Can you do enough to get under their skin? And while the Spurs, there's no way the Spurs are going to go out there and be dirty and, do things that are, not cool. At the same time, I think the Spurs can frustrate you with just their defensively, they are elite. And that's the matchup to me. I guess in a broader term, I would say the Spurs defense against the Warriors offense. That's the matchup I'm looking for. I know that's kind of a cop-out, but I'll take it.
I want to say, I'll get a little bit more specific. I just think the Spurs defense versus Kevin Durant. Kory mentioned they might be able to put them in a few ISO situations, but KD is still one of the best scorers in this league, if not the best. So if they're able to kind of frustrate him, and it's tough, there's not many guys that can match up with a freak like him. And even Giannis can't really match up with KD in terms of defending him on a nightly basis. So I think Durant, and we saw some incredible performances from KD last year in the postseason. I think that's a guy that I'm trying to make sure KD doesn't beat me in the series. Klay's coming back from injury, like you mentioned, Dennis. Draymond hasn't been 100% consistent, especially this season, especially with the mentions, like I said, the motivation thing, and his three-point shot is inconsistent. I'm okay with Quinn Cook beating me. Like he's, no offense to him, he's not a proven star in this league or anything like that. So I think if you're looking at the Spurs side, it's like, how am I going to stop Kevin Durant or at least limit him? Because obviously you're not going to stop him completely, but I really want to frazzle him and get him off his game.
I think, though, I would just counter that. I think they have some guys to throw at him that have the length. Danny Green's a good defender. Rudy Gay has been good this season. And Kyle Anderson, obviously. So it just depends on what kind of lineups the Spurs have. Also, Aldridge has been starting at center. And so that's going to be interesting to me to see kind of what Golden State decides to do. Will they go small and just have, Draymond play in the center, if you will, or are they going to play a traditional big next to Draymond? So I'm anxious to see how that goes in game one.
And I just want to piggyback off the point of it being game one. I think the Spurs have a chance here too to possibly rattle the Warriors. If they were to, let's say they were able to squeak out a game one win, or they were able to force, a couple close games early.
Win game one, bring back Kawhi.
Well, hey, who knows? Maybe that would be more enticing. But I think because of how poorly the Warriors have played to end the season, obviously, Steve Kerr and the locker room don't seem to be on the same page. He had to backtrack on some statements he made after the Pacers game, and then he said we just got to, relax and, hang out with our families after another loss. I think it could be a delicate situation for the Warriors locker room possibly if they were to come out of the gate slow. If that switch we mentioned before, if they don't, have that energy, they come out slow, we could see, a completely different series. We may even see Durant try and force things more, which actually could play into the Spurs' favor.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a ton of variables, but if I'm betting, I'm still feeling pretty confident the Warriors have that switch ready to go. They probably have like a turbo notch, like they have regular turbo and then times two. But
I didn't say you want to put my money. I'm just, I gotta get the Spurs fans some hope.
Deciding factor. What's going to be the deciding factor? I know this is a pretty easy one. I
mean, the deciding factor is going to be Kevin Durant, I think. I guess that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think. As we saw last year in the NBA Finals when we went against the greatest player to ever play this game. Whoops, hot take. But I think it's Kevin Durant. If without Stephen Curry, this is Kevin Durant's team. And there's been a lot of talk today, especially about him being a leader and needing to lead this team. And I think he's got to lead this team. I think he needs to put on a dominant performance, at least the first couple of games to get everybody rallied up. And I just think he needs to be at all MVP Kevin Durant level.
Yeah, I mean the thing I'm looking at is just the Spurs offense. If they can score, if they can consistently get good shots and knock them down, I mean they're not going to be easy to beat. But I just don't see a way that barring a major injury, that the Spurs can win this series. It's just, it looks very bleak. And when you add to that Durant historically has been really good against the Spurs, he's a tough guy to stop, no matter how much time you have to game plan for him. So I would say the Spurs, if they can score, if they can get really hot from three, they have a chance to make these games close and maybe steal one or two.
Yeah, I said the same thing about the Rockets yesterday. The Warriors play their game. They just do what they're supposed to do. They're going to win this series. And that's no offense to the Spurs. No matter how good the Spurs play, they could play great. But if the Warriors are playing at their full capacity, they don't really have a shot in this series. So that's it. Pretty much Warriors play well. The series is over. Prediction?
Well, unlike Earl Watson, which I don't know if you guys heard today, Earl Watson picked the San Antonio Spurs to win this series. So I'm wondering why he's out of a job. There you go. But so I'm going with the Warriors, and I actually, despite better judgment, I'm going to say the Warriors in 5. I think the Spurs steal one game at home.
I'm going to go Warriors in 4. I think they're going to sweep them. I think that although they've struggled this season to have that motivation, I think now that the playoffs are here, I think their mindset is like, let's get this over with as quickly as possible. And because I think the Pelicans and the Blazers is going to be I think that one's going to go long. So I think for them, it's just a chance to rest and get healthy and get ready for the next series.
Yeah, I think I was leaning towards 5, but after doing this show and previewing them, I think I'm going with Warriors in 4. It just makes too much sense. And it's almost like the Warriors have something to prove. Like, so many people questioning them, mentioning that they could get knocked out in the first round is just garbage. Like, you do not want to piss off a team like the Warriors, especially a guy like Draymond Green, who's probably chirping all day long to his teammates like, oh, they said we're going to get knocked out this year. We're not going to the finals. Like, they want to build up that momentum. And like you said, Dennis, injuries have been a concern for them. So they want to get some rest, get some extra days off while, the Blazers and Pelicans really go at it.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Warriors all season, it's been one of those things where when they're motivated, like they've come out and just put a hurt on people. So for me, it could be one of those things where, although I do have a tendency to think that these games are going to be close, I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Warriors to have a couple of blowouts as well. So we'll see how it goes, but I think the Spurs, though, I'm just looking forward to seeing how they do in the playoffs, and hopefully Kawhi will come back. I mean, I know they haven't talked about it, but that would be a really cool story for him to come back in the postseason.
Honestly, that would be incredible. I mean, I think I know a Spurs fan, and he's just like, oh, it would be so amazing if Kawhi could come back. But I mean, it doesn't look like in that whole situation. I know this is off topic, but before I get your MVP pick, chances Kawhi is traded this season, this offseason, percentage.
It's got to be decently high. I want to say, honestly, I'm saying it's a flip of a coin right now. I think it's 50-50. I think it honestly depends on how the off-season meeting goes. There's got to be the closing meeting or whatever. Obviously, between everything that's come out between Kawhi's camp and then Tony Parker and some of the vets calling out Kawhi. It's been a really messy situation in the locker room, which is something we just don't see from San Antonio often. That's a place where everything's, tight knit, nothing comes out. And we've had more come out over these last, 3-4 months than we have in the last 20 years.
I'm saying 0%. There's no way they trade him. No way.
I'm going to go with, I think I said under 20 before. I think I'll move up to 20%. I think there is more possibility than I anticipated. Also, I expect him to come back. It's really weird because we don't know anything about the injury. And obviously, the media and sources, it's all like he said, she said type of stuff. So until we hear in the offseason, it's going to be really tough. And it's going to be a weird situation in the sense because it's just so rare you see a top 5 player traded. It's just not something you see very often. And it's very hard to get value for a guy like that.
But and that's what takes me to 0 is just I don't think there's a way that they're going to get anything back that could even come close to the value for him, and so that to me is why they would not trade him.
Yeah, and also I think there's obviously a big we'll know a lot more if he signs the extension this summer.
Yes.
If he doesn't want that extension, that's obviously, these are great athletes and they already make a ton of money in different ways, especially him with, I think, Jordan Brand. But still, that's life-changing money for him, his next family, his next family's family, and et cetera, et cetera. But moving on from there, MVP of this Golden State San Antonio series.
I'm going with the easy answer again, Kevin Durant. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Durant averages, 35, 9, and 4 or something, and with like 3 blocks per game.
He averages a triple-double just for Westbrook.
Yeah, just to say it's, everyone can do it. I think he's going to be tremendous. I am never going to doubt Kevin Durant, especially after the performance he put on last year's NBA playoffs and the NBA Finals. So I'm going with my man KD.
I'm going to go Klay Thompson. I think that he has just been huge in the playoffs for the Warriors, during their run. And I think he's one of those guys, though, that not only is he going to, affect the game offensively, but I think defensively as well. He does so much to help the Warriors do what they do. So I'm going to go Thompson. I think he's going to have a big series.
Yeah, Thompson's definitely a guy that could drop 40 or 50 in a game real quick, or 30 in a quarter. But I'm going to go with Kory on this one. I think KD. Like you mentioned, Dennis, KD has had some really great series in the past against the Spurs, and obviously people calling him out, Steph not being there. He knows he needs to step up. So I'm going with Kevin Durant. I wouldn't be completely surprised if Draymond did it too. Like, Draymond is the ability to just kind of fill up a stat sheet, and the Spurs not being that great offensive team, he kind of maybe force some turnovers, get out on the break where he's probably the best, get some assists, rebounds, et cetera, et cetera.
I think Draymond wins if LaMarcus Aldridge is taken out of this series again too. I mean, like, if LaMarcus Aldridge struggles, in 3 out of 4 games or whatever, then I think Draymond Green definitely deserves some credit, because that'd be, 2 straight playoffs where he's locked up LA and made him look, like a scrub.
Yeah, very true. I think an interesting guy, I know this is not an MVP talk, but I think an interesting guy on the Spurs side that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Rudy Gay. You mentioned him, Dennis, a little bit earlier. He's come back. He's looked a lot better than I anticipated coming from the injury. He's getting kind of banged up all year. So I think Rudy Gay would be an interesting guy. And he's maybe somebody who has a little bit of athleticism. He's obviously a little bit older nowadays, but he has some good size and length, too, to match up with KD. Never been a great defender, but, Pop has made guys play great in roles they've never played before.
Yeah, I would go Draymond if he can go the whole series without a technical or without some kind of flagrant.
That would be amazing.
That would be MVP for him.
All right, percentages. What are the chances, Dennis, that Draymond goes without a tech for the whole series?
That's what I was going to say is, like, I think the Warriors thinking about it, they got so lucky in their draw with the Spurs, because the Spurs don't have those guys that are going to do the underhanded stuff. They don't have guys who are going to get into you, like, throw you a little elbow. And it's just like the Spurs are like the nicest team in the league in that sense. And so I think the Warriors really lucked out with that. So I would say, I think the safe bet is 0. I don't think Draymond's going to get teed up, or I don't think he's going to get any flagrants, or he's not going to kick anybody in the nards. I think he'll be all right.
He'll save that for OKC.
Yeah.
Kory, what about you?
The only thing I'm thinking of, is maybe if, like, there's like a tight game in San Antonio and the refs, are calling some, ticky-tacky fouls that Draymond just snaps because, he's got the fuse of a bipolar person. I'm gonna say 30% chance he goes. He gets attacked this series. 30% chance. I'm with Dennis. I agree that the nice guy Spurs, they don't really antagonize you enough to really draw something out. But I think the refs in a close game could get under Draymond's skin.
Yeah, I think 10%. It's not really even about the Spurs. It's about the refs. We've seen techs given out this season for almost nothing. And that's not, talking trash about the refs or anything, but there's definitely been situations where players haven't deserved to get a tech or deserved to get ejected, and they still did. So
we saw Kevin Durant get ejected for basically nothing. A couple months ago.
I guess he said something really, really inappropriate.
Yeah, he said something really bad.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So that's usually a quick switch. The players mentioned there's certain words that if you say them, that you're bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't aware of what he said, so you guys will have to tell me when we get off this.
Just say it rhymes with stitch, class, brother, sucker. Hey.
Okay. Oh, I got you now. Okay, perfect.
That was pretty good, Dennis. But that wraps it up for today. Thank you, Kory. Thank you, Dennis, for hopping on. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can catch out the rest of the playoff previews on OTGBasketball.com, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, Google Play, and enjoy the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Peace.